kazi mingi pia social media. Besides kazi nyingi, there is also social media that came to disrupt the way of life. So the little time you're there, you're trying to catch up with what is posted on Samrack and other forums. So anyway, I hope to go back to the reading culture. When I came to the US, I bought so many books left, right, and center. I have a small library here. Books are the most difficult thing I have had when I'm moving. They are so heavy, they are difficult to carry around. And so I have stopped buying. But now I have quite a number on e-copies. One of the most fascinating books I ever read was in high school, and it was called Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire. Yeah, so, and I hope to read Paulo Freire's other books. And another one was a guy I used to admire so much. It was the story of Che Guevara, the most voluminous one. Yeah, those were the two books that. Oh, the other one was the third one. I'll say that was also very captivating to me was The Godfather. The Godfather. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Karu, did they convert The Godfather to a movie?
Yes, The Godfather was converted into a movie. It's also a very interesting movie. If you have time, you can. Yeah.
We look forward to you sharing us. Yeah, we look forward to you sharing with us maybe next Tuesday or another day some of the books. Just come with a book and then just summarize for us 15 minutes about the book. I've not read The Godfather, but just the way you're talking, it's something I would very much want to read. Let's go to the other person. Edwin Buriri. Edwin, are you there? Salimia watu na utuambie where you're logging from, which books you're reading. Is your audio enabled, Edwin? We are receiving apologies for people who are not able to log in. That's okay. The other gentleman or lady is 978-601-0077. If you can be able to talk, that's okay. If not, let's go to Daniel. Are you there? Are you in a position to talk?
Yeah, I can talk. Okay. All right. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I am Daniel Karanja. Perhaps I would like to begin by saying I like reading so much. And I'm one of those people for whom Amazon is a dangerous place. I used to go to bookstores all the time, a lot, and I always left with a book. So when Amazon came around, it made it much easier to indulge in that activity. So I had to look for ways to reduce my book buying. I like reading history, science, religion. One genre that I don't read much these days is nonfiction. I think the last time I read nonfiction was maybe 20 years ago. That doesn't mean that I don't have interest, but I perhaps have been focused too much on other things. I wrote a book some years back on Kenya's boundaries. So I like reading, and also I like the other side of the coin, which is research and writing. But my focus is on history and geography. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. 1 second. 1 second. Let me go back. Thank you very much, Daniel. Yes, with humility, Daniel.
Hey, Sam, I'm here too.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Yeah, just tell us your name so that we can proceed on.
Hi, Sam. My name is John Chiboriot. I am new to reading.
Yes.
The last time was in reading Chinua Achebe in high school.
Yes.
But in the recent past, my wife got me introduced to reading after reading for the kids. So I'm happy to join this group so that I can get acclimated in the reading life.
Very good.
Thank you.
Good. Very good. Very good. Edwin Buriri, are you there, Edwin? Edwin, okay. He's just there. It's okay. I will continue with the meeting. Thank you very much, guys, for giving us that brief introduction of yourself. We'll get straight to the book reading tonight, and I have the pleasure of being your presenter tonight. The book, or let me just say one or two things about me. I love a lot of reading, but with technology also, I transitioned from traditional books to audiobooks, to books, reading books online, to reading summaries of books and that kind of thing. I love African history, reading books by the Chinua Achebes, Ngugi wa Thiong'os, local writers. And actually, I've tried to attend every, I would say I'm a 98% attendee of, if there's a new book launch within my community, I try to attend, and I've had the privilege of attending quite a number of Kenyans who produced books. Lucy Painter, there's another lady called Jen Kihiu who launched a book last month. And these are very good books. If you actually read them, they're very good books. I myself haven't produced a book, maybe someday. I've written some manuscripts, some whatever's pages, but I've never translated them to books. At the right time, God's timing is the best. And the books I've written that I've not translated, one is just about my childhood and how I grew up, how I went to school, how I went to high school, how I survived the obstacles that I faced, some of the stories that I had been given by our parents or by our peers. You can never get them anywhere. There's this story, and you'll tell me whether you've heard it. There's this guy who was building coffins, and it was a rainy day. He was building coffins. Someone came and bought a whole coffin, and he had a pickup truck. He put the coffin in the pickup truck, and when he was driving that truck to wherever he was going, someone put his hand out like this, asking for a lift. It was raining, it was really pouring. So this man stopped to give the other person a lift. And since it was really pouring, the man saw like a big box somewhere there, and he opened and he entered and he slept inside. And he didn't think it was a coffin or anything like that. He just entered and he slept to avoid the heavy rain raining on him. After a couple of miles, someone else put up his hand outside like this, and someone else, he gave this guy a lift, and it was really pouring. So he just sat down and he looked at the coffin like this. And when he looked at the coffin like this, surprisingly, the guy who had entered the coffin before him opened the coffin and he put up his hand. This guy jumped out of the moving car. And that's a story I'm yet to develop. But those are some of the stories we had when we were growing up, and they're not recorded anywhere. And we'd also want to develop them. John Nyaga, someone else has logged in. John Nyaga, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Unaweza tusalimia, tell us the books you like reading or the book you like reading, anything about having to develop the reading culture. Karibu.
Okay, thank you, Samrack.
Yes.
This is Reverend John Nyaga. Thank you. I just come on the way and I have heard what you have said.
Yes.
One thing mostly I like reading the Bible, but about other books I have been reading is mostly like history and also books that people have written.
Yes.
I might not mention the ones that I have come across because I don't go through many things, even to our writers, like our people here and back in Kenya. And let me tell you, they are very helpful. And Samrack, as you have been saying, I think it's high time we start writing what we have and what we have been writing. I know you are a writer because you have been writing for us, like when we said you something that we need to be announced.
Yes.
And through that, we can gather a lot, and this knowledge will help other people even afterwards. So I think it's good. It's high time we don't ignore what we have been writing, and we can get other people to help us. Maybe when I write something, I can give it to you, then you go through, and through that we can develop some books, and we can keep the records of the knowledge we have, and it will be helpful to other people. So
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
When you're done.
Yes, me.
Yeah, when you're
yes,
done.
I think yeah, that's all I have. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, my comment. This is Daniel again. My comment is on writing.
Okay.
There are many challenges, and that's a very good suggestion on people who have an interest in writing, because there are some challenges you run into, and it would be best if if the trouble you have run into in the past, or I ran into, when you need to do your own writing, Sam, or anybody else, you don't run into the same thing. So yeah, that's a very good thing to do.
Okay, good.
Yes, and if you suggest a book here, what this book club will do is we'll assume you have authority over it in terms of, like, we can ask you any question. Like now I'm being tempted to ask Reverend John Nyaga questions, or 1 or 2 questions from the Bible. Is that okay, John Nyaga?
Yes.
So I can, or can we ask you a few questions on the Bible? Have you read, how many times do you read the Bible from Genesis to Revelations? Or have you been?
Okay, it will take time. Okay, I have been reading, but it may take 1 year or 2, because sometimes it will depend on the sermon and the topic that you are taking or you are preaching. By the time you are going through maybe a particular period of time, it might take 1 or 2 years. Like when I was doing theology, so I had to go through. Sometimes you may take a particular area of a Bible, or you may take one book, let's say like John, and you are given maybe a homework to maybe to discuss something from it. Through that, you can be able to go through those books. So sometimes it may take time for it to repeat it again, because of maybe the work or the topics that are ahead of you. So I may not give it a particular time of a period, but if you plan it well, maybe. But there are those, there are those people who can lead and make it even within within a short period of time. But to me, maybe 1 or 2 years I can be able to go through. But maybe it will depend with the sermons that I have in the church and the topics that maybe, or the lessons that I'm taking.
Very good. Do you have like one particular book that, like, you can say maybe this is your favorite book in the Bible, or they are all the same? Or...
Yes, Proverb helps me a lot, because it takes like it is covering the life of many people, mostly even the youth, and also the adult, and how people can live, and also it can motivate you and shape you. Also the book of John, because I'm John, I like it to understand how John did. And the most, as we know that he was the most loved disciple of Jesus. He was loved by Jesus.
Yes.
And his name means gracious. God is gracious. Through that, I like it, and even his conversation, and even like John reminding us that he is our shepherd, and he will not leave us. He cannot run away from us. And it have a lot of richness in it when I go through it now and then.
Okay, okay, my last question to you. Then I move to John Jenga, who will tell us about John Keriamete. You said John was one of the most beloved disciples of Jesus, right?
Yes.
Do you know how he died? Because I understand all the other guys, disciples, died in a very bad death, but John did not die in a very bad death. Do you know how John died?
Okay, about John, as we remember very well, when he was taken to Patmos, and later he died. The death that he died, as we are told, after being, we remember we were told that he was cooked, but or boiled. But later, when he was taken to Patmos, he later died at his old age. So, and you remember very well, Jesus had said that some of you might not even test the death or the difficulties that I will pass through, like Peter's, how he was crucified, head down, others were cut, others were stoned, all this. So his death came because of his age.
Oh, wow, old age. Very, very good. Some of us didn't know that information. Thank you very much, Reverend John Nyaga.
Yes.
Jenga, are you there? Tell us about Keriamete.
Sam.
Yes.
I'm sure for the John Kiriamete's life, that's on how John Kiriamete grew up since and how he did his climbs in those were maybe even I think I wasn't born in 60s and 70s. Okay.
Okay.
And about his parents, I think what all how the parents were and how he went to school, how many times he went to prison.
Yes.
Yeah, he had a lot of challenges in life, and I think some were he ignited most of his life, and eventually after doing all those climbs for many years, and I think eventually he got saved.
He got saved.
So it's a long story. Yeah, it's a long story. Even the way from stealing from people, from bank, from coffins, John Kiriamete have been up and down. I think he's among the notorious.
Yes.
Yeah? John Kiriamete among the Rufia. Akina, this guy, Akina Wanogo, and the other guys, the three brothers.
Yeah.
Those were minor, the criminals compared to John Kiriamete.
Yes.
And I think up to date, Kiriamete is still alive.
Yes, he is. Yes.
And I think now he's a preacher somehow. He's a preacher.
And he married a nun.
Oh yeah, he's a preacher now. After doing all those crimes, eventually he came and accepted Jesus Christ.
Oh, wonderful!
Although some people have not accepted him, they don't trust him 100%.
Yeah.
But he preaches the word of God. It's a long story, but one day I'm gonna give me like a half hour.
Oh, very, very good, very good.
Yeah, I think that's it for now. Yeah.
Is there a book written about the other criminals, Kina Wanogo?
No.
Is it
Wanogo? Not yet. Those are minor. But that's a minor. There's amateurs. That's why they die at premature death, because they just started and they went so soon. Kiriamete from 60s to 70s. You see?
Yeah.
Because this guy, I think, was high tech, a professional. He used to rob bank.
Yeah.
Everywhere. John Kiriamete couldn't do anything. He could rob the coffins. Like now, for instance, we are sending a Kenyan who died.
Yeah.
He could go attend the mashakayas there. He's gonna contribute the money being contributed. But after burying the person tomorrow, Kiriamete gonna come and gonna dig the grave and get the coffin and go and resell it again, maybe to Mozuma. I think that's where they used to sell the coffins. And then they're gonna leave the body, out there, scattered there on the next to the grave.
Oh, interesting. Thank you very much. So there was Wanogo. Who are the other names? Wanogo.
The Rufia. Rufia, and there were three guys. Wanogo. No. Rufia. Washosho came the other day. Washosho, you can't compare Washosho and Akina John Kiriamete. Yeah. There's another guy. Yeah. I think next time when I remember that name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's written 2 books or 1 book?
I think it's one book. Yeah. This like one.
One. Okay. Wow.
He has written several. He has written
one.
Several.
No, the one I've got, I think is several, but me, I know about one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Wonderful.
Yeah.
At this time, we'll go to, who else? At this time, we'll go to Jane Malay. Hi, Jane. You want to enable your video if possible?
I'm actually driving, so I can't enable it.
Oh, just a brief introduction of yourself, books you like reading, books you'd recommend, anything exciting. And let me just say, Jen, we were in the same class with Jen many years back, and we're still good friends. And she's an A+ student. Go proceed on, Jen.
Yeah, right, Sam. Thank you. Well, my name, as Sam has mentioned, is Jane. My last name is Malay. And during this COVID season, I've been reading a lot of spiritual books. I don't focus on any genre. So this season is just for spiritual, but I'm happy with any recommendations and stuff like that.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Jen. Anyone else who wants to add on something else before we get on to our main presentation or reading, which will only take about 10 minutes, then we call it a day. So for next Tuesday, can we ask Daniel?
Yes.
You said you've written your book. Can you present your book for next
Certainly,
Tuesday?
yes. Yes.
Just how many pages is it?
Maybe 300. I can summarize. Mine is simple one to summarize.
Oh, okay, 3. Okay, fine. So next Tuesday, 8 o'clock, Daniel will present his presentation, and then we can also come with a book we've read during the week. Maybe talk about it, or any other book you think we can read. I'm looking for books written by Benson Idahosa. If any of you come across it, or if you guys can get it to me through Amazon or whatever, I'd really appreciate any book written by Benson Idahosa or on Benson Idahosa. I'd really appreciate. Okay, main presentation today is from the book called Goodnight Stories. I don't know whether you guys can see. Goodnight Story. Can you guys see? Uh-oh.
No, nobody can see it because of the, yeah.
Can you see now?
No, can't see anything.
Oh, you can't see anything? Okay, let me see whether I can remove my background. 1 second. Choose background. None. Okay. Can you see it now? It's called Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. There's Goodnight Stories for Rebel Boys, Goodnight Stories for Rebel Men, Goodnight Stories for Rebel Women. I've read this book like 3 or 4 times. There's for men, there's for women. There's all kinds of, there are all kinds of stories in this book. What happens in this book is, what it's done is, this book is for young girls, I would say 0 to maybe about 30. It talks about mainly women who are leaders in mathematics, women who, like the first pilot women, the first activist, the first fashion designer who's a woman, the first archaeologist who's a woman, the first rapper who's a woman, the first marine biologist who's a woman, the first swimmer or world swimmer who's a woman, the first best known boxer who's a woman, scientist who's a woman, computer scientist who's a woman, a painter who's a woman, the first astronaut and doctor who was a woman, the first well-known writer who's a woman. So it's a book I really, really love. And I'll just read you one or two stories from this book, The Rebel, Good Night Stories for Rebel Girls, by, let me show you once again something else. Let me show you. Can you guys see that? Who's that?
Is that Wangari Mathai?
Yeah, that is Wangari Mathai. Wangari Mathai has been is in this book, and I'll just read for you the story of Wangari Mathai. I believe most of you know, but for the young girls who are growing up, and you can get this book. It's for men, it's for women. This for specific one. This one is specifically for young girls who are growing up, just to tell them that if Wangari Mathai was able to do whatever she was able to do, the girls growing up can also be the same. For boys, if they're featuring someone like Mwangi wa Equity, if Mwangi wa Equity was able to do this kind of thing, anyone else can do it. So let me read for Wangari Mathai. Once upon a time in Kenya, there was a woman called Wangari. When lakes started to dry up and streams started to disappear near her village, Wangari knew she had to do something. She called a meeting with some of the other women. The government cut down trees. To make room for farms, but now we need to walk for miles to collect firewood, one said. Let's bring the trees back, exclaimed Wangari. How many, they asked. A few million. Should do, she replied. A few million? Are you crazy? No nursery is big enough to grow that many. We're not buying from a nursery. We'll grow them ourselves at home. So Wangari and her friends gathered seeds from the forest and planted them in cans. They watered and looked after them until the plants were about a foot tall. Then they planted the saplings in the backyard. It started with a few women, but just like a tree sprouting from its tiny seeds, the idea spread and grew into a widespread movement. The Green Belt movement expanded beyond Kenya borders. 40 million trees were planted, and Wangari Mathai was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for her works. She is celebrated by planting a tree. That is the story of Wangari Mathai. I don't believe there are very many books about Wangari Mathai, but this book was able to capture what Wangari Mathai did, and that was good. The other story I wanted to read on this book is a woman we all know. Her name is Rosa Parks. She was an activist, and we all know her story, but let me just read. Once upon a time, Montgomery, Alabama was a segregated city. Black and white people went to different schools, prayed in different churches, shopped in different stores, rode different elevators, and drank from different drinking fountains. Everyone rode the same buses, but they had to sit in different areas. White people up front, black people at the back. Rosa Parks grew up in this black and white world. It was hard for black people, and many were angry and sad because of the segregation. But if they protested, they were thrown in jail. One day, 42-year-old Rosa was sitting in the back of a bus on her way home from work. It was crowded and there were not enough seats in the front section, the one reserved for whites. So the driver told Rosa to give up her seat so a white person could sit down. Rosa said no. She spent the night in jail, but this brave act showed people that it was possible to say no to injustice. Rosa's friend declared a boycott. They asked every single black person not to use any of the buses in the city until the law was changed. The word spread fast and wide. The boycott lasted 381 days. It ended when bus segregation was declared unconstitutional by the US Supreme Court. It took 10 years for segregation to be banned in any state but it happened finally, thanks to Rosa. Rosa's first brave no. Those are just 2 stories from this book. They are more than, I believe, 100, no, they're more than 200 stories from this book. And we'll continue reading some of those stories just to see how these women began. Next time I'll try to get the male version of this book that talks about the men who did heroic things. And that is the end of my presentations. If there are any questions, feel free to ask, or way forward, feel free to ask. The forum is open. JC, are you there? Oh, JC, you spoke. Any questions, any clarifications?
Just a reaction.
Oh, reactions, yes.
Yeah. I appreciate the story of Rosa Parks.
Yes.
But it's also good to also note that Rosa Parks her story was rather deliberate and organized. It's not like it was spontaneous. She did it, as an individual just protesting. It was a very deliberate, calculated move.
Wow, okay.
But before her was a lady, a young girl, actually, who actually defied the odds and actually protested and was kicked out.
Yes.
And why they didn't, why she never gained prominence is because she was a teenager. She wouldn't have furthered the cause.
Yes.
And that's why they had to do this deliberate. NACCP had to do this very deliberately with Rosa Parks. So it was Rosa Parks gained prominence, but she was actually a political setup for the sake of furthering the cause.
Yeah. Okay, can I add something there?
Yes.
Yes, it was, but they didn't have a choice because they had to pick someone who nothing could be said bad against. So to a degree, there was no choice. And that happened all throughout the whole civil rights movement. For example, there is this activist who was very much active at that time, but he was never put at the forefront. His name is Bayard Rustin. And the reason for that is because he was a homosexual. So they did that all the time for strategic reasons.
Oh, interesting, interesting. Any other reactions? Anything on Wangari Mathai? Let me mention something on Wangari Mathai. Wangari Mathai was, she wasn't as famous as we think. Actually, Moi, former President Moi, was very much against Wangari Mathai, the planting of trees. She fought, actually, the Moi regime wanted to put up a very big building around Uhuru Park, and Wangari Mathai and her movement, the Greenbelt movement, came in very strong, and they wrote letters to the international community about corruption and how Moi wants to build a big building around the Uhuru Park, and they protested. Some even removed their clothes. Maybe Daniel will tell us what that means when an elderly woman removes her clothes. I think it's like a curse or something. They removed her clothes and they were thoroughly beaten by the GSU of that time. And a lot of women did not see the reason, a lot of people did not see the reason why Wangari Mathai had to go to heights to fight all this. Then suddenly she was nominated for a Nobel Peace Award by the Nobel Peace Award, and she actually got it when she was a minister. I think she was a minister for environment or something. When
she was an assistant minister.
Yeah, she was an assistant minister.
She was an assistant.
Yeah, and even when she was an assistant minister, she wasn't. And don't forget, Wangari Mathai is a divorcee. In the Kenya culture, when you're a divorcee, not much esteem is given to the woman. But Wangari Mathai was very smart she was married to the former MP for Langata. His name, I don't remember his first name, but he was a Mathai. Wangari Mathai, when they were divorcing, she did not drop the name Mathai. She continued with that name, probably because of some documentation or some legal implication. Maybe we can find out why she continued with the name Mathai. So technically, the community or the society did not hold a very, in a very esteemed way. But what happened when an outsider or the international body, Nobel Peace Award, recognized her? I believe she was in Nyeri. A helicopter was sent by the Kibaki government to go and pick her up. And that's where now Kina Obama, Oprah, and the whole world knew about Wangari Mathai. Even in her death, I believe she still continued to conserve the environment because she did not choose a wooden casket or a wooden casket. She chose a very simple, who knows what kind of casket she chose?
It's like a basket.
Yeah, like a basket made with.
It was a woven thing.
Woven or makonia thing.
Yes, yeah, something like that. Very cheap to conserve the energy, to conserve. She avoided cutting trees to make like a coffin or whatever it is. So even in her death, she's continued conserving the environment. And I believe, is there a road named after Wangari Mathai in Kenya? Like Wangari Mathai Road? Or how was she recognized by the government? Maybe it's something we need to find out, but
I think for the road is we don't have any idea for the road because most of the road is named after Odiga and Uhuru.
Anatoly, yeah.
Anatoly, and brother.
Okay, no problem. Any other reactions from general, either today's meeting or from the book that I read? And we'll continue reading. Any questions? Okay, Daniel, I'll ask you to sum. Edwin, are you there? Anything? Any contribution, Daniel? Edwin?
Yeah, I'm curious. I would love to know, maybe not today, but another time, how many books, for those who use ebooks, how many books are in your e-library? I'm curious.
Wow, okay. Welcome, Geoffrey.
That's all I have for today.
Thank you, Daniel. Geoffrey, are you there? Or he's connecting to audio, just a minute or two. Yeah, the question, tonight's question is, if you have an e-library, how many books do you have in your e-library? Geoffrey, karibu to the Samrack Book Club. Any questions, any books you're reading? Any books you like to recommend? Geoffrey? Okay, maybe he's not in a position to. Okay, that's a question that's goes out there. How many books do you have in your e-library? And if you like a book and you don't have a lot of time reading it, there are audiobooks, you can Google it. I'm not very sure whether that is legal, but if it's on YouTube, probably they did some copyright things and you know, that book is there. If you don't have, but if you have money, the best thing I'd recommend, you know, just buy an old book, which is not too expensive, so that the author can also have something to, the author can also generate some income. And I believe most of you, since you're reading a lot of books, very soon you'll be authors and publishers of books. So you'd also not want your book going to like YouTube, and instead of generating that money, someone rushes to YouTube to listen to your book. But otherwise, thank you very much for logging in. Let us continue meeting every Tuesday, 8 o'clock. We never know where this will land. Jenny, you want to summarize for us?
Well, I'm happy, like I mentioned on one of my texts on WhatsApp, I'm glad we've started this, and I hope the younger generation will also join us so that they can come out from their iPads and their phones. And like today, I've learned a lot from Rosa Parks. So I think we should just keep it going.
Very good. Geoffrey has sent apologies. He's not in a position to talk, but we appreciate you. Next time, Daniel will do the main book presentation, a book he's written, a 300-page book he's written. And actually, I had the privilege of designing the cover of that book many years ago. And karibuni sana for next time. Otherwise, have a good rest of your evening. Now, let's continue with this reading culture. Read for your kids. Actually, kids, I usually say kids, and when I say kids, they could be even 20 or 30-year-old kids. Kids' mind is like a sponge. When you tell them a story, even 10, 15 years, they'll still remember that story. Otherwise, good night and God bless you. Asante sana.
Thank you,
All right,
Sam.
bye-bye.
Yeah, welcome.
Sam, I was hoping we could hear the name of the book that Dan will read for us next week, so that we also prepare with it ourselves.
Oh, Daniel.
Or you share the group.
Oh, Daniel, you want to talk about it, and then you can also share in the group?
And the name, at least.
Yeah, it's about Kenyans, the origins and evolution of Kenya's international boundaries. So in summary, it's talking about how our boundaries with Uganda, Tanzania, and all those other countries, how they came about, who decided to draw them the way they're drawn, why they have all those weird shapes, all that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That would be exciting, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other reactions, questions? All right, thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Kwaherini.